How to become a millionaire. Now, isn't that the question? And I mean the question. I'm sure at some point we've all typed this into our computer, but what I would like to ask you today is why? Life is strange. Life is marvelous. It's extraordinary. It's just not enough right now. Have you felt that? In fact, through social media, everyone's life these days is so extraordinary, it's so in your face, reflected so vibrantly in comparison to your own, that you start to think, enough is enough. I need to step up my game. So, how do you become a millionaire? Firstly, like this video, share with your friends, family, anybody who you think wants to or even needs to hear this right now. Remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel, watch the whole video if you want to know the answer, because, let's be honest, we all want this answer. Welcome to...
Remember that property is not the best thing to invest in. Don't invest in property, invest first in you. Invest in yourself. The bigger you grow, the bigger your bank and your portfolio will grow. So immerse yourself in education. Jim Rohn says that formal education will earn you a living, but self-education will earn you a fortune. So read all the books. Read my book if you haven't already read it. Buy Low, Rent High. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The E-Myth is a great business book. The Richest Man in Babylon, fantastic around money management. Secrets of Millionaire Mind. There's loads of books you can immerse yourself in. There's loads of courses on property. You know, I run a 2-day property investors crash course. So immerse yourself in the education and subject and field of property. Do whatever it takes. Growing a portfolio from scratch, fast, is doable, but it is going to take a lot of doing. It's going to take a lot of discipline. So if you will do what most people are not prepared to do now, then you'll be able to do what most people can't do in a few years' time. So if you've got to drive a long way to get to that program, if you've got to get up super early to attend that networking event, if you've got to live like a pauper while you save in order to put down some money for a property investment, then absolutely do what you need to do. I promise you, you will figure it out. The information is out there. When you read the books, attend the seminars, talk to the people, you'll do it. Also, when you grow your circle, you'll be able to leverage other people's time, other people's knowledge, and also other people's money. Write down your goals and tell people your goals. Someone once said, if you haven't written down your goals, it's not a goal, it's just a dream. There's a lot of people out there with dreams. There's only few with actual targets. But you don't want to be a dreamer, you want to be a doer, you want to be a success. So write down your goals. Don't be afraid to make them quite ambitious, but at the same time, you don't want it so high in the sky that it's just not gonna happen. So what I like to do is set monthly and yearly goals. So I'll say, right, this is what I'm going to achieve every month, and this is what I want to achieve in my first year. Once you've done that, you can then increase it and push it up, push it up, push it up. So when I started out in property at 17 years old, my first goal was to just buy a house. I said, I want to buy a house when I'm 18. That was my goal. I did that. I said, right now I want to buy it, and I upped it and upped it, and I am now where I am today. So I'll give you an example. Rather than saying I want to be a billionaire in 10 years time, you'd be better off to say in 12 months time, I want the keys in my hand to my first buy-to-let property. And tell people that. When you sit down for your coffees after the coffee drink, just say, look, all I want, 12 months, I want the keys in my hand to my first house. People will love to help you achieve that. So just arrived at the airport, about to go back to England, Manchester, really excited to see my family again. And I think my number one lesson from this week has got to be that if you want to be successful, it's about who you hang around with. That is the biggest thing I've learned this week. Hang around successful people, you will be successful. Hang around millionaires, you'll be a millionaire. Hang around with billionaires, you'll be a billionaire. And that's what has made me jump on flights. I mean, I'm just flying back to England, and then a day after I'm going to Ireland to meet Richard Branson. So just get around the right people.
Let's say I'm 15 years old. How on earth am I going to get into property as a 15-year-old teenager and not only get into it, I mean, getting into it is an achievement, but how am I going to actually get rich from property starting out as a teenager? Well, here's what I would do. I mean, firstly, let me just say, as a teenager, I think you actually have a massive advantage, because when you're in your 40s and 50s and you've got a corporate job, you might be making £80,000 a year, 4 kids, 2 cars, 2 holidays, wife. what happens is you enter into the rat race, and you become trapped with that because you've got to sustain this lifestyle. The Joneses are next door and you want to keep up with those. Kids that are depending on you that might be in private school. So doing anything new and pursuing a new avenue is actually really risky. However, when you're a teenager or a young person in general, the massive advantage is you got nothing to lose. You haven't even entered the rat race yet, which is a good thing because once you're in the rat race, even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. So I think being a teenager or a young person is not necessarily a bad thing. So how do you get into it? Well, here's what I would do. I mean, people think it's no big deal going on a gap year. To go on a gap year is no big deal. To spend £40,000 on university, which is going to last 4 years, is no big deal. So what I would probably do is I would drop out of school because I don't see what the big deal is about school anyway. Why would you study hard at school with the purpose being to get good grades that will then give you a job, and the job is then going to give you money and put you in the rat race? Like, why on earth would you do that? So I would drop out of school, 15 years old. I would spend 3 months working on a building site. That's what I would do. And this is kind of what I did. I did work on a building site. And why did I do that, and why would I suggest doing that as a teenager? Because if you work on a building site, you're gonna get an idea of what needs doing to a house. I mean, ultimately, if properties create wealth, then you've got to understand properties and what needs doing to make a bad property a good property. How much does that cost? And this is all stuff that you'll learn on a building site. So I would spend the first, here's a challenge, 1 year, get rich, and as a teenager starting from nothing. So for the first 3 months I would spend on a building site, and I would just study, the craft of plastering. I did that, I learned to plaster, learn how to bricklay, all this sort of stuff. Once I'd done that for 3 months, I would then spend 3 months working in an estate and letting agency. Again, I did this. I spent 3 months working for Countrywide. I was working in an estate agent and letting agency. Why do that? Because when you're working in an estate, and I'll be working out, okay, I understand the crux and the bricks and mortar of property and real estate. Now I want to understand what makes a good investment and why. Why does that make it a good investment? And when you're working in an estate agency, you'll be finding and selling houses all day long. You'll be speaking to investors that are saying, they're looking for houses, and you'll get a good idea of what a good property as an investment is. Also, an estate agent and a letting agency, I've been wanting to do working a bit of both, because I'd also want to know, how do you find a tenant? What makes a good tenant, and what's the process of managing that tenant? Once you've done that for 6 months, alongside that, I would also be reading books. I've been developing myself personally.
Broke people, poor people, employee mindset is when you trade your time for money. Rich people, they don't trade their time for money. Rich people, they trade their value for money, and their value can be something that they do in 20 seconds. It can be something that they do once and the value's there forever, which is called a passive income. So if you're an employee and you're thinking in terms of trading your time for money, and you go to the office and you work 9 to 5 and you get paid for 9 to 5, or if you do an hour extra, then you charge overtime for your time, you just get out of that thinking straight away, because it sucks, it stinks, it will keep you broke, it will keep you poor. And rather than thinking, I want to get out of that and become my own boss, you're never going to be your own boss. You're never going to be your own boss until you stop thinking like that now.
Consistency is key. Persistence is perseverance. Belief and education in yourself, these things will help you achieve what you want to achieve.